Hello everybody, welcome back to another video. I'm hoping you guys are all having a fantastic day. So in today's video we'll be talking about a pattern that I kind of have noticed at this point. We'll be setting up in the long range, definitely an interesting one, an anomaly that could be the strongest one of the year in terms of temperatures, and we'll just have to wait and see how this unfolds, but I wanted to show you this today. And yeah, that's what we'll be talking about. I also will be briefly mentioning the storm that is kind of going on right now across the United States, but otherwise we'll be mainly just focusing on this long-range pattern outlook into early to mid-October. Okay, so if you guys are new to this channel, before we get into this, hello, welcome. I am a weather hobbyist, an enthusiast. I talk about the weather. I love the weather, and if you are, enjoying this video, please consider subscribing, liking the video. Obviously, check out the channel first, see if you enjoy this type of stuff. I'm just here to kind of give you a reminder. And yeah, if you have any comments, concerns, leave them down below. Without further ado, let's get into this video. So first off, what I want to do is just click on this weather model and let it run through. This is the GFS, the latest model of the GFS, and it's 384 hours out. Look what happens as we put this forward. I want to see if you guys notice anything. What's kind of the pattern here and the trend? It's just going. You could see our 150, September 29th, 30th. We do have some storms, some showers of various nature, but it's a very, very cold pattern. You can see that there are the 15 of the 32 degree line is barely making it to the Canadian border. We have and towards the end, as you saw right there, we start seeing a massive ridging across the United States. But really, the thing I wanted you to notice is just how really lack of precipitation there will be across the United States for the most part. While yes, there will be a few storms, especially across southwestern Canada and the northwest, and maybe one across the central US. You could see by the 2nd of October. Really, it's high and dry. These little shower chances, maybe some weak cold fronts, and of course, a potential tropical storm disturbance seems to be the biggest threat, as there is absolutely a profound kind of zonal flow with a southerly twist to it. So what does that mean? Well, let me show you some of these temperature anomalies. And that's where the extreme pattern or the interesting pattern takes shape. Look, so we do have a few cool air masses right now, and that's to do with that system, but they get scoured out pretty quickly. You can see there's another one on the weekend. Look at that heat building across the west, the upper plains, southern Canada. Each day it gets more and more extreme. And the only area that is a bit cooler is the west, the northwest, and kind of the coastal areas. Look at that. That is impressive as heck. As we go further and further, the heat doesn't go anywhere. And look, the anomalies are breaching pretty much the charts here. And look, towards the very end, it continues. It doesn't show any signs of stopping. Look at those anomalies. Very, very warm. So what I'm trying to show you here is that it's looking like it could be a very, very warm first half of October and into the portions of late September. This is definitely something that has been showing up now for quite a while on the weather models, and at this point it's been kind of more and more amplified throughout the last several days. It wasn't as confident, if you will. The models were kind of a bit jumpy. Now it seems as if, yeah, it looks more and more likely that there will be giant heat wave for at least the first half of October for pretty much everyone. Yes, a few areas will be a bit less, like the south compared to average, but really just the northwest and the west coast states may be a bit cooler. And if I were to show you some of these 2-meter temperatures shaded, so this is basically what the thermometer will read. Obviously it's October, so heat wave in October won't bring hundreds, but it definitely still can bring 80s and even some 90s. So notice, we do have a bit of that cooler air, right? But by Sunday, Monday, this is Monday, look at that, 90s across much of the central United States, and into the northeast it's cooler, but 80s, 70s, 80s into Illinois, Indiana, Ohio, possibly, probably underdoing some of these temperature forecasts here. And look, every day it gets warmer, hundreds across Nebraska potentially into late September. Definitely not unheard of, but it takes quite an anomaly to produce that. Look at that, 90s, potentially in Chicago, southern Wisconsin, Iowa, Minnesota by Wednesday. And then look at that right there. Look at that divide. Potentially a storm system the GFS advertised forming a bit of precipitation, but really look at that heat now across the north, south, the east. So definitely an extreme anomaly, I would almost call it. And you can see this is something you'd see during the summer. These these temperatures. 90s potentially daily across Illinois, Wisconsin, Iowa, Indiana, Michigan, Ohio, Kansas, Nebraska. And again, this has been showing up in the long run for a while. I haven't really talked about it because it wasn't that confident yet. And there were a few models that kind of advertised a few cool outbreaks a bit further down. So I wasn't sure, the confidence of this. But yeah, at this point, it looks more and more likely that the central, eastern, southern, and southern Canada, central, kind of northern United States will be getting pretty hot. The only areas that are cool are going to be the northwest and the southwest of Canada, and they could be cool in a pretty large way. But yeah, look at that. I mean, look at this. This is October 7th at this point, right? This is fall, and look, we have 80s, 90s, all the way from pretty much Wisconsin. We have 80s, the Canadian border, all the way to the 90s across the south. So yeah, it could be warmer in Wisconsin, Minnesota, than potentially some areas in Texas. So an all-out, very warm pattern, and yeah, I mean, it's gonna be brought by these extreme anomalies. Now, this isn't just really one model, and I will show you the Canadian. The thing is with this Canadian, it only goes out to 240, so not as long range. But I don't really like this model as much for its temperature forecast and its graphics, but it really shows the same message. It's usually a bit more biased with the cool air, but even in this case, it really prefers the heat. I mean, look at that. During the day especially, extreme anomalies of heat. During the night as well, look at that. The northern plains, Montana right there, potentially into Manitoba, Saskatchewan, Alberta. Very strong anomalies of extreme heat, and this Canadian does sneak in a bit of cooler air into the kind of Midwest and southern United States, but again, I do think it will be a rather warm pattern, and this only goes out to 240 hours. European, very similar. Look at this. It does show a bit of that cool air right there. It scours out any cool air this weekend, and then it moves in with that heat, and in a big way, especially across the northern United States. The European shows that, but again, the anomalies extend all the way down to the south with warmer temperatures. So it's really kind of not really a model basis kind of a trend. It's really just all of them showing this. And look at the European. It also keeps it very dry. That's our storm system this week, right? That pulls away, and it's pretty much dry for the Midwest, the Great Lakes. A few maybe disturbances that are very small. The Northwest could be seeing some larger ones, and they do try developing some kind of system here, the models, but it really fails. And despite it being very warm, the storms really, it's looking dry and warm. So the drought conditions may get a bit exaggerated during these conditions. Climate Prediction Center. This is for the month of October. And you can see they're definitely favoring above average temperatures. They're showing a bit above average in terms of precip here. We're not seeing that yet. And the 8 to 14 day outlook probably does a better job of what's to come, in at least in a shorter range. Look at that again, favoring the above average temperatures, maybe just the west coast being cooler, and look at that, very dry for much of the eastern United States, a bit wetter for the western, which is good. They need that precipitation. 6 to 10 day outlook, a bit less further out. Very much the same thing, and the pattern in terms of precip is also the same. That is good news right there. Above average precip, they need that, so that's good. And here it's going to dry out, which is a bit good for some folks like Michigan, Indiana, after they've seen all that rain. But Minnesota, Wisconsin, Iowa, Illinois, the Dakotas, the Plains, those folks have been in a drought and really seeing much below average conditions in terms of precip, and above average temperatures won't really fare well. So that isn't really something you'd like to see. Probably will make the drought worse, and usually fall is kind of where we hope that the drought gets a bit better. But in this case, it's not looking as if that will be the case, especially with such heat anomalies. And you can see that the European does show very similar anomalies. And let me show you this. Again, there is a bit of that cool air, 2 waves of it. It gets scoured out. We start seeing that heat. Again, 10, 11, 12 degrees above average. And look at that right there. Very warm. Manitoba, Montana, 23, 25 degrees above average. So if you're seeing, if your average is 50, you're now in the 70s. So that's quite an anomaly. During the summer, if this were to occur, what we're seeing right now across what the GFS showed towards the end of its forecast range, this would be producing hundreds. If this was July or even early August, this would definitely be, potentially the hottest temperatures in a while. But obviously, as I mentioned in previous videos, it is a bit easier to create a significant anomaly during the fall and winter months rather than it is during the summer. That's why usually summers, if they're warm, they're marginally warmer compared to average, but because it's hard to create such an anomaly in the summertime, but during the wintertime with the jet stream and the blocking that could occur, it's usually a bit easier to create such anomalies, which is why it's, I would say, more common to see 90s here in October, for example, here in Chicago, than hundreds in July. Even though in order to see 90s here in October, it takes much more of an anomaly than to see 100 in July. It takes on 15 degrees above average to see 100 in July, and in October, it takes on 20, and we've seen pretty much every year. In the past several years at 90 at least once in October, but in this case, there could be several potentially even in a week. So we'll just have to wait and see. I do want to show you anomaly, or sorry, the ensemble. So these are many models compiled on top of each other, so it's not just one model like the GFS. And look, so there's our little system right there that produced that cool air. Let me go to the 2-meter temperature anomaly, as that was a bit higher up in the atmosphere. But look, we see that heat building pretty much instantly. We do see those cooler shots of air for the northwest. They just stay secluded there. They don't move much further to the east, and you can see that overall, based on 51 models, yeah, it's gonna be pretty darn warm, and at that, it's 6 to 8 degrees above average, which an anomaly this far out to be this significant really is something that is truly stunning. The European ensembles EPS, it shows our also our very warm temperatures. Just again, the European ensembles for some reason really like to favor this heat across southern Canada and the northern United States. That still will be warm for a lot of folks, just the anomalies a bit further towards the north, while with the GFS ensembles, it's there, probably the worst, but it definitely stretches out further to the south. And yeah, you could see that if anything, the west that is a bit cooler and in the short range could actually become warm as well. So what I will be doing in the next really today, probably in the evening, I will be going over in my kind of analogs and seeing the historical trends, what follows a very warm October like this in the late September, because there definitely have been years like this before, and I'm just curious if if that has any implications for the winter. So yeah, we'll have to see. Definitely interesting, and it's an extreme pattern that will be developing. Lots of warmth, very little precip. The drought will be getting a bit worse, unfortunately, but that's just something we'll have to deal with. But yeah, that is very warm, and if you're to take a look at the 2-meter temperature shaded, that doesn't look like if it's an anomaly, because, well, it's 60, but again, the averages for those places in early October is around 40, not 60. All right, thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll catch you all on the next episode. See ya.